This is the Zeitz Museum of Contemporary Art, Africa. This adaptive reuse project was done by Thomas Heatherwick and was completed in 2017. This building was originally a massive grain silo built in 1924. At 200 feet tall, it was the tallest building in sub-Saharan Africa. In 1990, the grain silo was decommissioned, and so the building was left empty for a couple of decades. Then, in 2011, Thomas Heatherwick began the process of transforming it into the contemporary museum it is today. The city of Cape Town wanted to preserve the silos since the complex was such a historic landmark in the center of the waterfront district on the harbor. Even though the area has been revitalized as a tourist location of shops and restaurants, the silos convey the history of trade that was the original heartbeat of the Cape Town harbor. As farming and trade has become more modernized, there was no longer a need for those old concrete silos to hold grain, so they were given a new function and were converted into a world-class contemporary art museum. Both of the lives of the building, as a grain silo and as an art gallery, have the same core use, to hold something. The grain silos held corn when they were first built, and now they hold works of art. The museum has 80 art galleries that house the extensive collection of German collector Jochen Zeitz's contemporary African art. This is the first museum in Africa of exclusively African art, making it a profound cultural importance because it keeps the art on the continent instead of sending it away to a museum in Europe or America. Above these galleries is a stunning restaurant that overlooks Tabletop Mountain and the harbor. Also on the rooftop is a modern sculpture garden which connects to a beautiful hotel. The original grain silos had a very industrial modern aesthetic with almost no ornamentation on the facade. It had a flat roof over the cylindrical silos and a non-hierarchical entrance. It did have a symmetrical floor plan typical of a more classical design. The silo complex was also a vast, sublime building as it towered over the rest of the buildings around it, as well as all the dark tunnels and machinery on the interior invoke feelings of danger and obscurity. Heatherwick decided to keep much of the industrial elements of the silos in his adaptive reuse. For example, he left the grain chutes exposed in the entry and kept the shape of the materials of the silos throughout the building. To give the museum a more modern feel, Heatherwick used a lot of glass and metal materials. The convex windows play to the sublime nature of the building as they seem to dangerously bulge out of the walls. Heatherwick did keep the original aesthetic of little ornamentation though, allowing the art in the galleries to be the main attraction. The atrium of the museum is probably the most famous room of the building. The space is cut out of the silos in the shape of a corn kernel, alluding to its original use. This expansive room's elements of verticality and streams of light almost give it the feel of a Gothic cathedral. The silos were a sustainable building to the community even when they were first built. Socially, the building provided a place to store grain for the community. Economically, it was a hub of trade as trains and ships would transport the grain. Also, the concrete used to build the silos was locally sourced, which is an environmentally sustainable practice. Heatherwick was keenly aware of sustainability in his adaptive reuse project. Converting the silos into the Zeitz Museum instead of tearing them down and building something new was economically and environmentally sustainable because it saved thousands of pounds of concrete from going to waste. The museum was designed according to the Green Building Council of South Africa regulations, which included energy-efficient windows and water use. The climate control system used for the building is serviced by a seawater cooling plant, which saves energy. Heatherwick was more concerned with the social sustainability of the project, though. He said that, quote, "The real meaning of sustainability is far more complex. It includes the human dimension and assessing how much possibility a building has for working in 100 years from now," end quote. The museum has certainly been socially sustainable by improving the quality of the surrounding area and providing a cultural landmark for the community in Cape Town. So hopefully it will continue this trend of sustainability, like Heatherwick said, for another 100 years. And these are my sources.